evening, you are watching Otyrar News with Diana Idris, and here's what we'll be covering today. Is there a limit? 38 people died as a result of a missile strike on Kiev. Who is Mr. Starmer? What do we know about the new UK Prime Minister? How to recognize a gambler? Experts talked about the problem of the 21st century. Let's start with some tragic news. On the 8th of July at 10 a.m., rocket attacks were launched on Kiev and other cities in Ukraine. Around 200 people were injured and dozens were killed, including children. The Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed that it ordered strikes on major Ukrainian cities. My colleague Tina Kudai-Birgen is now in direct contact with us and will tell us more details. Hello, Tina. How many people have been killed so far?
Hello, Diana. 38 people have died and 119 have been injured as a result of Russia's missile strike on Kiev. According to official data provided by the Ukrainian side, Russia launched a total of 44 missiles of 40 different types, out of which 33 missiles were successfully intercepted. Residential buildings and infrastructure have been destroyed. This attack has been called the most massive in recent months. Apart from Kiev, missile strikes also hit the cities of Dnipro, Kryvyi Rog, Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. The attack also struck the Ahmadiyed Children's Hospital, particularly affecting the dialysis department. The rescue operation involved not only rescuers but also ordinary citizens. Additionally, 2 children died when a multi-story building collapsed in one of Kiev's districts. It should be noted that the official Kremlin has not acknowledged the bombing of the children's hospital, citing provocation by Ukrainian authorities.
Approximately 17 apartments have been destroyed. Rescuers are currently working. We hear voices. People are trapped under the rubble. We are doing everything possible to rescue them as quickly as possible.
In the Ukrainian parliament, the goal of the attack was described as a destruction of civil society. Official Moscow in turn confirmed missile strikes but stated that the targets were Ukrainian military industrial facilities and Ukrainian armed forces aviation bases. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that the destruction in Kiev occurred due to the fail of Ukrainian air defense missiles. Both sides are currently investigating who attacked whom, but it remains undeniable that innocent civilians have been harmed.
Обе стороны не заинтересованы в реальных переговорах.
Both sides aren't interested in the negotiations now. All statements about negotiations and readiness for them are accompanied by impossible conditions that are unacceptable to the other side in reality. To end the war, either irreparable human losses or an economic crisis in one of the countries is required.
It is important to note that Kazakhstan has clearly defined its position, which involves the necessity of respecting the territorial integrity of all states, including Ukraine, based on the UN Charter. For Kazakhstan, with a population of 20 million people, including 3.5 million Russians and 250,000 ethnic Ukrainians, this conflict hits very close to home. It is tragic war. Therefore, Kazakhstan is striving with all its might to help stop the bloodshed and contribute the conflict resolution. The president of Kazakhstan has repeatedly stated that Kazakhstan is ready to play a mediator role if such a role is sought by both Russia and Ukraine.
In the Ukrainian parliament, they have called on NATO countries to provide assistance. The request is clear to everyone. I will note that the tragedy occurred a day before the landmark NATO summit in Washington. Whether this is coincidence or a hint, it remains unclear for now. But one thing is certain, all of this must end someday. That's all from me. Passing it over to you, Diana.
Assistance to Ukraine was one of the central topics at the recently concluded 75th NATO summit in Washington. Leaders from 32 member countries of the North Atlantic, the allies, announced plans to provide Ukraine with at least 40 billion euros in military aid over the next year. US President Joe Biden stated that this new commitment sends a clear message to the world that every NATO member is ready to contribute to maintaining the strength of the alliance. Additionally, this summit featured the new NATO statements on China, with members noting that Beijing continues to pose systemic challenges to Euro-Atlantic security. Among the notable guests were also the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, the Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, President of South Korea, Yoon Suk-yeol, and others. This summit marked Sweden's first participation as a NATO member and was also the last for Jens Stoltenberg as NATO Secretary General. He will be succeeded by former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte on October the 1st. The NATO meeting was a big start for the new leader of Britain, his aide. He wanted the country to be more active on the world stage. Before that, Britain had bad relations with Europe because of Brexit. The Labour Party has come to power in UK. Its leader, Keir Starmer, became the Prime Minister. What do we know about the new Prime Minister? Keir Starmer was born in 1962 in London to a locksmith and a nurse. Interestingly, the future Labour leader was named Keir in honor of the founder and first leader of the Labour Party, Minor Keir Hardie. Starmer's childhood was tough. He grew up in a large family living in poverty and had to mature early due to his mother's illness. Nevertheless, he became the first in his family to attend university. He studied law at the University of Leeds and later earned a Bachelor of Civil Law degree at Oxford. He specialized in human rights law. In 2008, he was appointed head of the Crown Prosecution Service. In 2014, for his services to criminal justice, he was knighted and became Sir-Keir. Starmer entered mainstream politics in 2015, when he was elected to Parliament for Holborn and St Pancras. He became the leader of the Labour Party, succeeding Jeremy Corbyn in 2020, and according to his supporters, reinvented the party with a brilliant set of values, principles and ways to develop Britain. Despite being personally against Brexit as Prime Minister, he has already stated that he rules out Britain's return to the European Union. Starmer has also declared that Britain will remain a strong member of NATO, continue to support Ukraine and stand with Israel in its conflict with Hamas, but he has called for both sides to cease fire. And now news from Kazakhstan. Low salaries and debt loans. The Supreme Audit Chamber says that most Kazakh people earn between 50 and 250,000 tenge, but less than 1% of the country's population earn more than 500,000. At the same time, delays are growing. Economists say that these figures indicate a depressing situation for citizens. My colleague will give you more details.
Kazakhs believes they are underpaid. The quality of life of the population study was published by the Supreme Audit Chamber. It found that more than 40% of Kazakhs are wage earners, about 6% are self-employed, and another 10.5% of citizens receive various social benefits. However, salaries are low. Thus, less than 5,000 tenge is earned by about 19% of employees and 18% of the self-employed. From 50 to 250,000 tenge is earned by 74% of employees and about 63% of self-employed, but only few have an income of 500,000 tenge and above, less than 0.5% of both employees and the self-employed.
Only official data from the Bureau of National Statistics were used. There is no income for about 6.5 million people. According to statistics, 6 million are children. Up to 10,000 tenge is 500,000 people, from 10 to 50,000 tenge.
However, the data may be inaccurate. Some do not indicate their real salary, others receive it in an envelope, but nevertheless the data is upsetting.
This is a depressing situation, it's not good. Abroad, economic activity in the country is mainly looked at the middle class, and we have a huge gap between the rich and the poor. Over 500,000 it's not very high salary.
At the same time, the average salary is officially 382,000 tenge. Economists say that the problem of low wages in Kazakhstan is already overripe. It is impossible to live on the minimum of 85,000 tenge. Therefore, social standards are needed by which these minimums will be calculated.
В этом году был принят закон о социальных стандартах.
This year alone, social standard was adopted, according to which the MVP next year will be approved according to new rules. At the minimum subsistence minimum which will be calculated in a new way. These basic things that exist in the social standards.
The Supreme Audit Chamber also cited data on the credit portfolio of Kazakhs. Thus, the amount of overdue loans last year compared to 2022 increased by more than 40%. Against this background, the income of microfinance organizations increased by almost a third and net profit by 40%.
In order to earn more money, the number of ludomaniacs is growing in Kazakhstan. The law of gambling addiction was signed in Kazakhstan and has already entered into force. Now, people under the age of 25 will not be able to place bets or even consume energy drinks. The goal is simple and obvious: to reduce gambling addiction among the population of Kazakhstan. Darya Zulfikar covered whether the law will work.
Lose everything because of gambling. People are losing their entire fortunes, all because of gambling addiction. What is it? With ludomania, a person is attracted to gambling. The outcome is always sad. Experts say often victims of ludomania are deprived of everything: status, respect in society, work, money, and sometimes even life. According to psychologist Herman Vladimir, ludomania can develop long, slowly, and the worst, imperceptibly. Prohibitions and restrictions do not work. Treatment is needed, and especially individual treatment.
Everyone sees advertising, but not everyone plays. The problem isn't with advertising, but with mental health. Prohibitions don't have the desired effect. It's important to seek help from specialists and not hide the problem. Specialists will take into account individual characteristics and stages of pathology development. If necessary, they'll refer to a rehabilitation center.
So it is known that more than 10,000 people in Kazakhstan have autonomously banned themselves from playing in casinos and betting in bookmakers' offices. At the same time, experts advise regularly monitoring their loved ones and paying attention to any suspicious moments.
If a person gambles, they must admit to themselves, yes, I'm addicted to gambling. But gambling addicts rarely admit their addiction, just like people suffering from alcoholism or drug addiction. It is important to have the support of the family and then of a psychiatrist and narcologist who deal with treatment. They can go to mental health centers where they can get consultations, treatment, and rehabilitation. This can be done anonymously in a state institution.
I will note that a bill has already been adopted in the country where the advertising norms is clearly spelled out. For example, now on the streets, on public transport, and in series, there will no longer be loud and bright advertising gambling or betting. But there are exceptions. Lawyer Venera Shertaeva says that in order not to violate the law, you need to carefully study the resolution.
Advertising can be presented on television or on a specialized sports website, as well as on sport equipment and sports games. However, gambling business owners are required to post a warning about the risk of gambling. The law comes into effect on September 9th. In general, these changes are aimed at reducing the indebtedness of the population and saving families. People give away everything and are left with nothing.
According to official data, there are more than 350,000 people in Kazakhstan who regularly participate in gambling. Of these, 200,000 are minors, according to the deputy Yilnur Beysenov. Now those under the age of 21 will be prohibited not only from using online casinos and participating in gambling, but also from consuming energy drinks. The deputy believes that minors could have placed bets in an intoxicated state due to energy drinks.
Citizens addicted to gambling are the main consumers of energy drinks in order to stay awake and play all night.
While government is still debating concrete solutions, people continue to flock to casinos and gamble online. I would note that the gambling addiction has already been dubbed the plague of the 21st century. For good reason, this addiction spreads like wildfire.
A truly touching story unfolded in Shymkent. For 79 years, there was an award for a resident of Shymkent who participated in the Great Patriotic War. The children of Maria Bashukova found out about the Order of the Red Star years after her death by chance. The continuation of this story is in our next article.
На днях у меня случилась большая радость.
Recently, I experienced a small joy. After years of effort, I finally succeeded in obtaining the Order of the Red Star awarded to my mother on February 13 in 1945, but never presented to her during her lifetime.
Anwarbek Nauruzbayev holds the Order of the Red Star awarded to his mother Maria Bashukova back in 1945. At just 22 years old, she saved the lives of 90 soldiers in 1 week during the winter of 1945, as recorded in the award citation.
Comrade Maria Nikolaevna Bashukova, working as a nurse in a hospital unit, received 90 severely wounded soldiers and officers from January 23rd to February 6 in 1945. With tireless dedication and attentive care, she alleviated their suffering. Thanks to her devoted care, the wounded were saved and evacuated for further treatment. Comrade Bashukova's effort to save lives merit the government award, the Order of the Red Star.
Anwarbek Nauruzbayev learned about the 1945 award citation by sheer coincidence.
В архиве у нас в Казахстане
In the archives of Kazakhstan, my colleague, the General Yezhan Isakulov, discovered the document. It stated that Maria Nikolaevna Bashukova, my mother, was awarded the Order of the Red Star, which she never received during her lifetime.
The search for the award, as well as obtaining it, proved challenging. At that time, Anwarbek made a promise to himself.
Тогда я еще работал, дал себе слово офицера и слово сына.
I was still working back then, but I made a solemn promise as an officer and a son that I would find this order. I reached out to numerous authorities, and there came a day when I lost hope. I tore up my own petitions and considering giving up, but my wife encouraged me, saying it wasn't becoming of an officer to abandon the quest, so I resumed my search.
He then had to reconnect with old contacts from his youth.
Я стал уже сам напрямую обращаться.
I started contacting friends in Russia and Moscow and found some in the archives of the Ministry of Defense. My hopes were slim, but last year, on my mother's 100th birthday, they assured me they would find it. This inspired me to keep going. Just a week ago, my friends from the Russian archives called to say they had found the order after 2 years of searching. I was overwhelmed with emotions when it arrived, along with my father's service book. Both my parents were award participants, and the same signature on stamp appeared in both books. This is the very order lost 79 years ago.
The reason why Maria never received her deserved award remains unknown. What matters is that her son kept his promise and the order sought posthumously reached her descendants. Anwarbek urged everyone searching for lost relatives or unclaimed awards from the Great Patriotic War not to lose hope.
Ну, сейчас, наверное, времена-то меняются.
Times are changing. Now people should contact the Minister of Defense of Kazakhstan instead of local military offices. Over the past 10-15 years, much has changed, and now there are lists of the missing available online. If anyone hears this and has lost relatives, don't lose hope. Keep searching.
How many such stories are hidden in state archives is unknown. The important thing is that sooner or later we, the descendants of those who sacrificed their lives and health for our peaceful present, will learn of their heroism. We remember them, for our fallen are alive as long as at least one person remembers them. Saida Tursumetova, Enlik Utibаева, Aslabek Makhalbayev for Otyrar TV.
A serviceman from Shymkent, Rawan Utibаев, became a local hero. One day, a man saved a girl from jumping off a bridge. It turned out that he has saved her before. My colleague will explain why a soldier is called an angel in uniform.
In this video, serviceman of military unit 6506 Raulan Utibаев saves a girl who wanted to jump off the bridge. They had been negotiating with her for literally an hour, but in a matter of seconds she made a decision and wanted to jump. The guy managed to grab her. Private Erland doesn't consider himself as a hero. A modest guy says that at that moment he was thinking only about one thing: how to save a person. Moreover, the guy has dozens of lives saved on his account. Once he saved a drowning boy when he was swimming in a forbidden place, pulled him out of the water and provided him first aid. In short, a real angel in a military uniform.
Here next to her stood a man who dissuaded her from jumping, but she didn't want to listen to him. While he distracted her, I ran up to her and immediately grabbed her and began to pull her out. She was already standing behind the railing. We pulled her out, she started crying. Then he wanted her over to resource and police officers.
Raulan comes from a military family. The guy says he chose the profession himself. Patriotism must not only be shown, it must be proven by deeds, says the private. The guy is 23 and has dozens of letters of appreciation, not only from units command, but also from ordinary citizens.
I was passing by, I saw how the girls want to jump. I looked, people are running, then this guy reacted so quickly and saved her. Well done, soldier, let all people be like that.
The soldier has a goal. He dreams of becoming a professional military man. At 23, he is just taking a military training course, and as they say, in the unit with excellent marks. The guy is waiting for a promotion and an award, and they also promise a well-deserved vacation so that he can gain strength and energy and return to service.
That's all for now. Have a nice weekend and goodbye.